Hello again, everyone. Hope we're doing all right. So I've been down to the reservoir, had my break, had my nutrition bar. I'm heading back home. So what am I going to talk about today, or this session, I should say, because I did one this morning on my way down there. So skydiving. How did I get into skydiving? Well, it was thanks to a bloke called Doc Sysons. He was our corporal metalsmith when I joined my first unit in Tibrath back in 1978. And there was the three of us. There was me, Doc Sysons, and a bloke called Kenny Alcock. Doc and Ken, if you ever see this, drop me a note. It'd be good to get in touch with you again. So, Doc Sysons was a bit of a character. Anyone who knows Doc, and there's a few people that have commented when I've mentioned his name on my channel before. Yeah, I know what I'm on about. Doc was a real character. Now, I'm going to be politically incorrect here. Doc was the person that gave me my first nickname in the British Army. And my nickname was Nigger, spelled Nigga. Now, just to explain, I was proud of it. Yeah, I had it in big white letters on my toolbox. But that's the sort of person that Doc was. I was a young craftsman. He was the first person I saw when I walked in the door. Yeah, and he decided that was going to be my nickname. And there are people even today that knew me back in those days still call me nigger, and it's not racist. It's the fact that they knew me as nigger at the time. But like I say, Doc was a bit of a character. One of the things was his son had two bumholes, and Doc was proud of that. He used to tell everyone about it. Even his son was only a baby at the time, but he'd show you his son's two bumholes. Absolutely amazing bloke. But one day, we were all sat in the rest room in the workshops in Jelly Baby Barracks, and Doc came in and said to me and Kenny, I bet you wouldn't do this course. You've been looking at JSPs, Joint Service Publications, and it was the basic freefall course. So me and Kenny, being the idiots that we were, so do you know what? Yeah, we'll sign up for it, Doc. So we did. Guess who was the only person that didn't sign up for it? Doc Sysons. Me and Kenny did the course. I went to Weston-on-the-Green, the Royal Air Force Sport Parachute Association location drop zone. And I believe Kenny went to Netherhaven, the Army Parachute Association drop zone. And we did the course. So I did the basic course at Weston-on-the-Green. Got into it in a bit of a way. Yeah, enjoyed it, really enjoyed it. And with Tidworth and Netherhaven being just down the road from each other, there was a bloke that was in my room. We were in a four-man room. There was a bloke there called Mick Ellingworth. He was the Royal Corps Transport's clerk, squadron clerk. And Mick was into skydiving in a big way. In fact, Mick used to jump with a team called the Silver Stars. I believe the Silver Stars are still going. They're now the Royal Logistic Corps freefall team. But Mick, I used to look at his equipment and everything, you know, his parachute rig and everything like that, and I got more and more sort of interested into it. So at weekends, instead of going home back to Portsmouth, I'd disappear off down to Netherhaven, do another couple of jumps. And when we got posted out to Cyprus on the UN in 1980, I ended up going out there and didn't have a job to do. I was the vehicle electrician for the squadron, but there was no job for me. It was a case we had two civilian electricians that had to be employed. So weekends, after the initial excitement of being in Cyprus and being on the beach, yeah, I got a bit bored of that. and Mick was going to the parachute centre down in Decalia. So I ended up joining them over the weekend. And I just got chatting with the chief instructor that was down there. A bloke called Mick Winwood. He was with the what were called the flying bugles, or the tumbling trumpets, as we unofficially named them. Yeah, and I was explaining to Mick that I didn't have a job to do. So he said to me, "Why don't you see if you can get yourself down there? I could do an extra pair of hands." Now at the time, I got my packing certificate for packing parachutes, and that's what my initial thing was. I would go down there, I'd out on the staff, I'd pack parachutes that had been jumped, yeah, especially for the jump masters, because obviously what they would do is they'd dispatch a couple of students, and after a couple of loads, they'd end up jumping out themselves and getting some airtime. So I used to pack the parachutes. One of the guys who used to pack the parachute for was a very famous Red Devils 314 member, like called Bob Harmon. And I'd met Bob before I'd even joined the army. But I spent, out my 6-month tour down there, I spent 4 months at the parachute centre jumping out of planes, racing up the category system, getting in as many jumps as I possibly could, because that was a benefit. I was on the staff, you know, and if there was a slot on the load, I'd get loaded up and I'd go and do part of my progression system. So I raced up the progression system, got to my category 8 in the 6 months that I was out there. And there's 10, or in those days, I don't know what it is now, but it was 10 categories. But I jumped all sorts: aeroconical canopies, C9s, paracommanders. But I never got into a square while I was out in Cyprus. I was just on the paracommander canopy. But I was loving it. Yeah, jumping from all sorts of heights, getting up to 12,000 feet, doing really well. Good morning, sir. Yeah, doing really well. Then got posted back to the UK, and again, Netherhaven was down the road, so I just kept going. Got myself loaded on a advanced freefall course, and this was all to do with the fact of getting yourself to category 10 and hopefully what was classed as a D license, which was a display license jumper. So I've been jumping out of planes, yeah, all this time, 12,000 feet, some cases 15,000 feet, yeah, and really enjoying life. Then I got posted to Germany, and luckily for me, I was at a barracks called Athlone Barracks in Senlager. And just over the back of the barracks was the drop zone called Bad Lipspringer for the Rhine Army Parachute Association. So again, by this time, I've got myself my own rig, my own canopy. Yeah, and at weekends, me, my now ex-wife, and even my kids were going down at weekends, and I was jumping out of planes. During the time that I was in the military, I jumped out of all sorts of vehicles and that, so all sorts of aircraft. One day we had a Sikorsky CH-53 arrive on the drop zone at Bad Lipspringer from the German army. And what a joy that was. It was a case of they'd flown over, wanted to land, have a break, and then they asked, would we like to jump out of their aircraft? Well, the queue was a mile long, up to 12,000 feet, and we all piled out. Now I was the last man to link up on a 30-way formation, yeah. And that was how I got my category 10, funnily enough. because Jack Fowler, who was the chief instructor at the time at Bad Lip, said to me, you know, you can jump out and follow us down and watch. And if you feel like you can get in, then try it. And sure enough, that's what I did. I watched the formation develop over Bad Lip Springer and thought I've got time, because we're at that point we're around about 6,000 feet. We jumped at 15 and I docked in as the last man on the 30-man formation, which was great. Do I miss skydiving? Yeah, I do. Let's be honest with you. I've done a couple since I came out of the army, mainly because of the fact that there were people that wanted to do skydiving, knew that I'd done it, over 2,500 descents under my belt, and asked me if I could organise it. So the first company that I worked for in the UK as a civilian, there was a group of people from Aspect Technologies that wanted to have a go at doing a basic freefall course. Yeah, it was only static line, and I took them away. We were supposed to jump at a drop zone near Prince's Risborough, which was the London Parachute Centre, but at that weekend, it was during the foot and mouth pandemic back in the 2000s. So we ended up having to go to Weston-on-the-Green. And when I got to Weston-on-the-Green, got chatting with the chief instructor there, explained to him that I'd done my basic freefall course there back in 78. And he asked me, would I like to be the first man out with the group that I'd taken, just to give them a bit of confidence. So I did. Did a couple more jumps after that. But skydiving in the UK, expensive, very expensive. And so I stopped doing it. I don't regret stopping. I've got the experience, you know, I've had my joy out of skydiving. Like I say, Lisa did a skydive a few years ago. She did a tandem one, and I presented her with her certificate and everything afterwards, and she loved it. But like she said to me, I enjoyed it, but I won't do another one. Yeah, I've done it, that's it. I was looking at doing one from a 65th. Everything fell by the wayside, but with my stroke and everything like that, with the planning of it. So maybe I'll plan to do a tandem jump later on, you know, maybe next year or the year after, so long as my medical condition allows me to. But it's like I was saying before about having goals. There's a goal for me. Yeah, I want to jump out of a plane again. I'd love to go abseiling again. I used to love abseiling. But skydiving, people will say, oh, it's a dangerous sport. It's one of the most safest sports you'll ever come across. Yes, there have been fatalities. But when you consider I've cut away from my main canopy twice in the 2,500 jumps that I did, and I'm still here to talk about it. Yeah, there are so many safety aspects incorporated into skydiving. There are so many drills that are drilled into you into how to deal with a malfunction or anything like that. That, you know, it becomes instinct. And that's what happened with me with my two cutaways. There was no question, I was off, back into free fall, dump the reserve and land. So there are some pictures of me skydiving. What I might do is I might try and put a little short post of me skydiving. A lot of it you will see dates from back in the 80s, just by looking at the equipment that we're using. But if you're interested in skydiving or you've thought about it, you can do a skydive for a charity. Maybe one of your local charities. Might be a hospice like Lisa did for Loris Hospice here in Leicester. And you can raise money for them. And if you raise them enough money, it doesn't cost you for the actual jump itself. Now what we did was Lisa raised the money to pay for the jump. I paid for the video so that she would have something to remember of her day of skydiving over at Peterborough. Funny enough, I jumped to Peterborough during my time. But that's how I got into skydiving. And funny enough, it was only the other day, Lisa was saying about, do you miss it? Yeah, I do. Would I do it again? Most definitely. So there you go. That's my history of skydiving. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it. Not telling you what to do. We don't do that on this channel, do we? No, we don't. Yeah, but if you do subscribe, just drop me a little comment. Say, hey, Nobs, it's me from so-and-so. And I'll guarantee you'll get a reply. I like to reply to my subscribers. You've taken the time to subscribe to me. It's only right that I take the time to reply to you. So to all of you out there, I'm tabbing back home. I've got bloody ironing to do next. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And as me and Keith say, let's tab.